Yeah, I've got this angled, I think, better than before. But we'll see. Anyhow, just got my nonprofit website up, and yeah, I'm excited about that. EnergizedTacoma.org. And so I'm still working on the page itself, doing all the things, but really putting some of the projects on there. There are others that I need to work on and finalize, but things are moving along and going pretty well. So I'm really excited about that. Once I get a few things kind of out of the way, Noel, the one who does not want businesses, comes up with a lot of business ideas actually. And so one of them, there's some things that she mentions, and I'm like, I don't find the pull. But there are other things that she comes up with from time to time, and I'm like, okay, I can get on board with that. And so there's an opportunity more than likely. The biggest thing is always getting her buy in. So if she suggests something, then it's more or less getting my buy in. And then from there, I do all the other stuff. So I set everything up in terms of the business, write the business plan, do all the stuff. And at the end of the day, we work well together. But anyhow, that's not what this video is about, so stay tuned. But it is about what the Tacoma Mall is doing. The Tacoma Mall is owned by Simon Properties, which is based in Indianapolis. I saw their corporate headquarters. It's nice. And Simon Mall owns the Tacoma Mall, and Tacoma Mall is a mall here in Tacoma that is very, very popular. Malls in other parts of the country may be going away. They may be struggling, but here in Tacoma, at least, that's not the case. Now, even up in, excuse me, up in Seattle, they've had some struggles, right? Westlake Mall, is it Westlake? Northgate Mall is struggling, so they converted it into a whole bunch of other stuff that is not mall related. And then I think, what is it? Westlake is downtown. It's kind of okay. And then Pacific Place in downtown Seattle. All of those have struggled. But the problem is that Seattle as a whole is struggling because of a lot of different things. It's just struggling, right? Even the arts economy up there is starting to unravel. Down here, because we've really focused on certain key things like arts and other things versus just technology, we're starting to do fairly well, right? Somebody's just having fun with their car. That's so Tacoma. You won't find that up in Seattle. People revving engines and doing stupid stuff. You might have motorcyclists do dumb stuff up there, but typically you don't have people rednecking cars all day. But anyway, so what is interesting about this is the mall in Tacoma, the Tacoma Mall, used to be just like your regular typical mall with the box stores and all that. It's all enclosed. But they're starting to break that mall up, and they're turning it into a village. Now, I think part of this action to do something was because of the Tacoma Town Center, in my opinion. I could be completely wrong. The Tacoma Town Center at one point in time was really discussed, talked about. It was going to be this big thing for downtown Tacoma, and of course that has fizzled out. Now, I think there's a lot of blame to go around, and I think that was a collapse of what could have been. There are people who were in charge of making decisions, again, making poor decisions, in my opinion, and you end up with the results that we have. Instead of taking something and breaking this project down into several pieces, which would make better sense, and the city saying this is what we'd like to have, you didn't really get that. So now you have one person over a big piece of property. This development's $300 million. Very few businesses have that type of money laying around to develop. It doesn't happen. And if they do, this is not the market they typically do that. Point Ruston's kind of a unicorn, and even that financially didn't work out too well because they're going after the person that developed that. Money is very hard to come by. To become a millionaire is very hard, right? It is. But once you finally become a millionaire, it's easier to make the next million, right? When you have to have several dozen millions together, it is very hard. And when we're talking about interest rates right now, it's very difficult. Unless you have the money of a Simon property. Simon Properties own malls throughout the entire country, maybe some even overseas. And they've brought in so many new stores to Tacoma, it's exciting. Now, I'm aware of other stores they're bringing here in terms of eateries, and I knew about this project ahead of time only because they were courting us to bring our business to the mall. And they gave us blueprints of where that store would be, and they happened to show the overlay of the rest of what the village will look like. And I'm like, oh no, wow, look at this, look at this, look at this. And they were all eateries. It's like, that's different. Well, and they listed the name of those eateries, right? Which is interesting. I don't know if I'm legally able to say what they are, but it's interesting, right? They're new to market. I will say that one of the eateries is similar to another chain that we already have here. There's just a slight name difference. I will go that far and I'll leave it, right? But the mall, and you have the thumbnail for the image here, this is done correctly. Let me see if I can zoom this here so you can see it on here while we talk about it. You probably can't see jack squat. But they're basically building two structures, Building A and Building B, okay? There's an article that I'll include in this, and you can read through it if you want to, but it talks about all the new buildings, and they're putting this in the parking lot, which makes sense. Another place that has a lot of parking lot space, and the city wants something done about it, is the Tacoma Dome parking lot. To be honest with you, they could probably take a small area and do something very similar. I'm just saying. Work with a developer to build something very similar, which is not super expensive, because Building A is going to cost $3.5 million. It's going to hold 4 tenants spaces with separate kitchens, so all 4 tenants are all restaurant, and all 4 will have their own separate kitchens. Building B is located directly across from Building A, and it will have 5 tenants also with kitchens and patio area, and is expected to cost $2.5 million. So altogether, this is a $6 million project to build 2 buildings. Building A is going to be 16,500 square feet. Building B is 10,500 square feet. And when you look at it, both buildings have nothing but a string of outdoor patio seating. Now, why we don't do this more, I don't quite understand. Yes, weather here does suck. This is not Southern California where you can have cafes and stuff all over the place and people sit out all throughout the year. But you can have cafes all over the place and it will be seasonal. We need more if you want to look at street vitality. And the reason why this concept is such a brilliant idea is because A, it's Simon Properties, and they have experts that really know what they're talking about. And these are people paid a whole lot of money. They know what works. We as a city needs, and again, I talk about the strong mayor for a reason, because that person, whoever that may be, can fire people who don't have an idea of how a city should go in the direction that we should go. No, we can't necessarily dictate what gets built, but we can definitely ask. I've seen cities do that all the time. Albuquerque, they wanted to build a signature tower for the city, and they were seeking developers to do that. And they were offering land. We want a building that has a certain amount of height to it, and there's certain requirements. So you can offer some requirements if there's some sort of incentive for the company to do so. They wanted a grocery store downtown in Albuquerque, which has less people than Tacoma, and they were able to find a company that opened up their own grocery store, built the building, which will have residential up above, and it had a pharmacy and everything. That is a city that has a strong mayor who said, this is what we need. Again, I talked to a gentleman that was in California. I look up to him, and he says, I like that strong mayor form of government. I like working with them because you can get stuff done versus the way it is now, right? So again, when I tell people vote strong mayor, not anything else, not hybrid, not keep the current system, It's because things can happen quickly. If the public says this is what we want, in Albuquerque's case, they've been wanting a grocery store and apartment building downtown, and that's what they got. And they have by far less people living downtown than we do. And our downtown's even bigger, but that's beside the point. When you look at this concept, they basically create this lifestyle village where in the middle, when you look at this particular thing, and there's parking all around, but in the middle, cars can park right up to the door. Right? Now, let's say downtown Tacoma. This is a shocker, but let's say someone decided to do this on a very small scale in downtown Tacoma. And they say, you know what? We're going to, instead of having cars where they can park in the middle, we'll create like a public plaza where people can kind of just walk and sit and talk and whatever the case may be. There are plenty of vacant parking spots downtown. Why not buy one of those parking strips, put in a smaller type of format like this, put in the kitchens so that the poor business owners don't have to struggle and figure out where to come up with the money, and you activate an entire area. You could technically do that. Some of these eateries, because the Tacoma Mall focuses on big chains. That's what they do. They know they're going to get the money that they want for their space. Downtown may not get those types of chains, but they can work with a lot of franchise owners. Again, you have to seek. So a developer that knows what they're doing can go after a franchise owner and say, hey, think about coming to downtown. We can work with you. So you provide an anchor. You might, in the space I'm thinking about, you probably could put 4 eateries. And it in a cluster like that where people can kind of go where they want to go. You can have a brewery right there, so you kind of have like a whole vibe. It wouldn't cost a whole lot of money. Right? We're talking, the biggest issue here is land costs in addition to building. But the mall is building 2 structures that are, pretty decent size for not a whole lot of money. Right? Again, $6 million ain't that much money. And they're going to basically add 9 eateries. Now, are they going to get rid of the food hall concept on the inside of the mall? Probably not. Why? Because it's a different class of food. When you go inside of most malls, the food hall area, or where the food court is, it's a food hall. You do have chains, you do have those types of things, but you're kind of, more affordable. I'm in the mall, I'm doing all the stuff in the mall, and I'm hungry type of place. These other eateries are more designed for people who aren't necessarily visiting the mall. They're just here at home saying, man, I want to have some of this or some of that. And they drive to the mall, they park, they go and they get their food. They may journey into the mall, they may not. People inside the mall may journey out to these places, they may not. But you create this whole vibe. Now, I'm not sure if Simon Properties is going to build housing there. It would make sense if they did, because housing is desperately needed here. So the whole lifestyle village concept could possibly include housing in the future, and I think that would make a lot of sense, especially given the fact that the mall has a tremendous amount of parking, and if done correctly, you could build on top of what's already there, right? Similar to if this was done downtown. You could design it so that, yes, below you have nothing but just restaurants, and up above, you could probably build housing in the future. This is probably what Simon Properties is doing, because when you look at it, even in the newspaper, the article is saying that's a lot of eateries, but they're saying there's going to be housing coming soon. It's from a developer that's putting in housing off-site, but close to the mall. It's only going to be 100 and something units. That's not a lot. But given the density of eateries that they have in general and that they're adding, my thought is eventually the mall will probably start to develop housing within the mall itself. It would make a tremendous amount of sense. Why? Because instead of just getting commercial funding, money, you kill two birds with one stone. Tacoma needs housing desperately. Desperately. Not just a little, a lot. So with the money that Simon has, they already have everything there in terms of shops and stores and everything. Like, it is the mall here. It's doing pretty darn good. The only other mall next to it that does well is um, South Center Mall, which is much bigger. It's got a lot more stuff in it. It's very successful. But that's the only thing else close by that does that well. And so, given the fact that we need housing, it would make a lot of sense. The addition of 9 new eateries, I'm all here for it. I got to find that sheet that Noelle has, Noelle and I both have, that includes the list of all the businesses that are coming. But I mentioned it to her. She's like, oh. And these run the range of different types of eateries, right? One of them I think has already been mentioned, and it's it's one of those revolving sushi type place thingies. I forget the name, but it's fairly popular. That's coming, and that probably will take one of those spaces. I know another one right off the dome because it's stuck in my head because I'm like, we already have something that's similar, a little different of name. Those are coming. So I think it's great. I think the idea of having outdoor patio seating is something that downtown Tacoma should be really, really pushing to make happen. Because if people see people are out and about sitting and eating, people want to know what's going on. They want to stop and check it out. They want to be able to sit outside and enjoy it. We do have great days like today where it's nice and sunny and warm out and all of that. We do have that. So during our warm season, which is end of May, the rain kind of stops supposedly, all the way to maybe August, September, it's still warm here. So you can still, and it's dry mostly, you can easily have outdoor seating, patio. You could easily do a lot of that downtown and increase the vitality of downtown. We just need a strong developer. Now, it would be great if Simon Properties said, you know what, why don't we replicate this, buy a small piece of land downtown, and let's bring in some eateries and maybe 1 or 2 or 3 retail stores, and then say, cool. That would be great. But this type of concept is something that I think makes a lot of sense. The layout makes a lot of sense. I like the way they've done it. Again, if they did something like this downtown, instead of having the parking in the middle like they did, I would leave that open just for pedestrian only stuff. Have a brewery that's there because people love that type of thing. There's plenty of them here that would do that. It would do very, very well. I would have like a playscape area for kids because people want their kids to go and do something. There's not a lot of playscape areas downtown in Tacoma. And then the fact that you have these eateries, especially since the food hall is kind of on pause, we need to have more quick, affordable places to eat. Not just stuff for people who are 25 and older, or people going out to the bars, or any of that stuff. We need to have more things that younger people, especially soda kids, there's a lot of soda kids downtown that have very limited options because everything is much more expensive. But if we start to focus more on them as a city, bye Noe, have a good day. Drive careful. If we had more stuff that was more geared towards our poorest population of people, then you catch everything else, right? That's how it should work. Instead of trying to get all the big fish, there's only so much money for that. But if you have quick, affordable dining, even visitors are like, yeah, they had a great food scene down there. Like, there was a lot of stuff. There was stuff that was cheap because, we wanted to grab a snack. Ice cream. We don't have an ice cream place. So you can easily build these small retail sections that really could become a great, and because parking's not required, you don't have to worry about that, right? People will find the parking. But to have a concept similar to what the Tacoma Mall is doing, where you have this cool concept, right? You'll see the image, and the image is going to probably be grainy because even looking at it on the phone, it looks grainy. But those two buildings right there are really something that what thing locked me out. Sorry. But these two buildings right here really do make a lot of sense. And again, don't ignore the building in the back, the biggest building, that's the mall. It's just these two little buildings right here. And again, the fact that they're able to contain so many different businesses is insane, right? They're going to start construction, they say, sometime in September. You know, when you look, Nordstrom Rack came not too long ago. Total Wine and More, Ulta, all of those came to this lifestyle village portion of the mall. And they're tearing down stuff that doesn't matter anymore. Some of those old things like J.C. Penney's and all that, they're tearing those down and reusing that as an opportunity. We're going to get a movie theater there, but to be honest with you, I think movie theaters are going to be a thing of the past. Just because A, they're so damn expensive. B, people can stream. Why go into a theater? Theaters, I think, created their own problem, just like legacy stores did. They didn't have a lot of good security. The customer service was trash in most instances. The stuff's expensive, a bunch of stuff. People are on their phones in the theater, glowing it up, talking. It's just not the best experience, right? In America, it's just not the best experience. So people would rather be in the comfort of their home, streaming it, watching it, and not paying $30 for snacks. But at any rate, so that part fell through in terms of us getting that movie theater, which was going to be Marcus Theaters. That fell through because of COVID. But the mall had already agreed to start going down this path of a village style format, which I am happy that they did. And I'm happy they decided that before COVID happened because they already did all the construction and all the stuff. They're continuing with that process, and it's only a good thing for Tacoma. We're going to finally get some of the things that most other cities take for granted, and that is normal chains that every place has. And it's not like, oh, you guys don't have that, you guys don't have this, you don't have that. One thing that we don't have, which Noelle and I wish we did, Einstein bagels. We don't have that. Einstein Bros bagels, we don't have that, which I would like to have. Yes, we do have other mom and pop ones, but that, I tell people, you have to have a ecosystem. If you only have mom and pops, which is what Albuquerque does, it doesn't stimulate the economy completely. Because yes, you're supporting small business, and I'm a small business owner. I believe in that. But you also, to have a healthy economy, you need to have a variety of different things. Some of those involve chains, some of those involve mom and pops, some of those involve just, middle of the road. You got to have a little bit of everything in order to have a healthy economy, right? Otherwise, people just stop buying. They stop going to those places because they're bored. You see what I'm saying? Like, you got to have variety. But we don't have an Einstein Bagels. We don't have a Jason's Deli, a McAllister's Deli, and an Out Burger. Oh. But anyway, tell me what your thoughts are about this. I think it's really good. I think that if we were to get an In-N-Out Burger, which they are slowly creeping up Washington, it would probably be over at the mall area. Dick's Drive-In, which, they are heavily focused up in King County. They're too scared to come down here to Tacoma. But I think it's a foolish mistake because I've always said, if you're the first one in, you make the biggest impact. All it takes, and In-N-Out Burger is by far more popular, bigger, and in my opinion, tastes better. But they more than likely will eventually land here or plan here, and I think it's not going to matter in terms of Dick's, in my opinion. I think they should have came here a long time ago. Another one that should come here and probably would do better in downtown Tacoma will be an Amazon Go store. We went to one. If you're on my TikTok, you should, because I post all the time, much more frequently than here. It's I'm So PNW, which I will include that in the here somewhere. But we went to an Amazon Go store. It's really cool. That format will work perfectly downtown. But again, if you don't have the right people in the right place at the right time, doing a lot of outreach and doing the things you need to do, and they're just kind of lackadaisical, and they just kind of, they're just there, then things like that don't happen. You have to be a go-getter, and that has been a chronic problem in the last 15 years in Tacoma, especially downtown. But anyhow, Tell me what your thoughts are about this outdoor cafe lifestyle village that the Tacoma Mall is happening. I think it's a great thing. I look forward to it. And as we grow as a city, we need to have more and more of this type of thing to keep us a healthy city. Till next time, I will see you. Take care.